Hi everyone, I'm Alan Richmond, your host for Inside the Naval Postgraduate School from Monterey, California. Thanks for joining us. In this edition, we'll look at the role of research in robotics and how they help support the warfighter. We'll also talk with our provost and executive vice president here at NPS, and we'll also look at how you can get an EMBA to help advance your career. Well, the Naval Postgraduate School here in Monterey, California is known for its cutting-edge technology. That's why I'm talking to you via a robot. I'm actually at Naval Postgraduate School in the robotics lab, and we're about to find out more about the great research that goes on here with Dr. Rachel Goshorn. Rachel, tell us a little bit about your work. What kind of research are you doing here?
I'm involved in intelligence automation for the global war on terror and homeland security systems. So specifically distributed systems throughout multiple levels of what we call the global information grid for the Department of Defense. I've been involved in this research area for over 10 years, how to automate human intelligence. When I came to the Naval Postgraduate School, taught our students the future of the war on terror is automating expertise at the sensor systems.
Now, you always have interesting things, and I never know quite what they are, so maybe you can start explaining, and we're talking about generally robotics.
Okay, well, welcome. Well, in the lab here, you'll see several distributed intelligence automation systems. We started with fixed camera systems, so we have about 40 video cameras around the second floor of Bullard Hall for tracking people and doing anomalous behavior prediction and reaction. And then we've recently moved in the last year to mobile intelligence for robotics. So what you see here is a payload for one of our blimps, which has 2 video cameras, has GPS, it has 2 DSPs, it's IP, wireless, and this is the same payload for our ground robot here. So we have a dozen ground robots, and the purpose of them is to educate our students in the future of mobile intelligence for our war on terror and homeland security. So the research funnels into our education in our lab, and it's based around the need to automate human intelligence at the sensor platform node. So 2 driving functions drive automation. One is we need to prevent terror and crime in our borders and abroad. And so with that, we need to predict. So sensors need to gather information. We need to extract features, fuse them, predict behaviors, and automate rules of engagement, which has been a research area of mine and colleagues for the last 10 years. Another driving function is our current economic crisis. Budgets are being cut, and therefore we have less manpower, so we need to automate. Similar to the telephone operators of the 1920s. My grandma was a telephone operator, but during that time they predicted the number of people that would own telephones. They would need to hire every high school girl graduate in the country, which was not possible. So the switching circuit technology was invented to help automate human operations. So we are in a paradigm shift of not having enough humans to analyze sensor data, especially in unmanned systems. So we need to automate what humans see at the sensor node.
So you were mentioning how this technology is supporting the warfighter, and I would imagine in Afghanistan it's a big issue with all the problems with the IEDs. This would be kind of a solution for that, wouldn't it?
Yes, this would be an ideal solution. These unmanned systems are part of a paradigm shift for very low-cost robots. So we're focused on the intelligence automation that would be on the unmanned system. What you see here is a payload with 2 cameras, GPS, compass, 2 DSPs. It's a wireless IP, has 2 batteries, and they're under $2,000. So for about $2,000, this could be ruggedized and deployable. Now, these are IP, so they can talk to each other. We got these prototypes from a vendor company. They're easy to plug and play sensors. So in the IED example, we've added magnetic sensors, and the robots would go out and look for signatures of certain magnetic strengths. Now, since these are low cost, they could be self-destructible. So what rules of engagement could you automate on these unmanned systems? For example, if you knew no humans were allowed in a certain area of operations, you could have a squad of these go out with magnetic sensors, and when they find a certain signature of magnetic strength, they have rules of engagement. They could have some C4 on here and self-destruct, destroy the IED, and is more cost-effective and protecting our EOD officers over in theater. Other examples are ground sentry duty. So normally humans are walking around and visualizing and monitoring certain areas and extracting features, fusing them, looking at behaviors. And these ground robots could help the productivity of humans be more valuable.
And you could do voice commands for this too. You were telling me that if someone was holding a rifle or a weapon, you could actually explain how that works.
Yes, so for example, if a squad needed to go into a building, which is very dangerous, you don't know what's in there, you could launch a few ground robots with some rules of engagement automated on them, give them their mission to look for certain features, say find a human and look for if they're holding an AK-47, which is a certain feature and shape which can be programmed and put at the camera's processors. And if the robots see anyone holding an AK-47, you could have a speaker, on the robot saying in Arabic to drop their weapon. Then the next rules of engagement, if the weapon's not dropped, maybe you launch tear gas, a stun gun, shoot them. What can you automate?
It's very exciting work in the technology, and I know you've dedicated your life to this. So
Yes.
thanks very much for sharing it with us, and good luck on your future work.
Well, working hard and here to help.
Robots, what will they think of next? Stay tuned, because after the break, we'll be telling you how you can get an EMBA right here from the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey. Well, if you're interested in obtaining an executive MBA or an MBA from the Naval Postgraduate School here in Monterey, California, this segment will tell you exactly how it works. We had an opportunity to speak with the Dean of the Graduate School of Business and Public Policy at NPS, Bill Gates, along with the program manager and one of our professors, and two students who are involved in the EMBA and the MBA program. Here's how it all works.
I'm Lieutenant Nicholas Myers. I'm a Navy submarine officer, and I'm in the Graduate School of Business and Public Policy, completing an MBA in financial management. My thesis study is entitled An Economic Analysis of Investment in the United States Shipbuilding Industry. What it does is tries to quantify some of the benefits to the U.S. economy of building ships, and it recreates a methodology used by economists in the United Kingdom at Oxford University. What I'm hoping is that the study provides a platform for future research efforts and provides the Navy leadership with a little bit of an economic case for increasing investment in building U.S. ships. The Naval Postgraduate School has been really a wonderful experience. My 18 months here have challenged me in new ways. The professors come from a variety of backgrounds, a stellar group of talented individuals, former Harvard Business School professor and others. And we get a great exposure in the financial management community to private sector business issues, as well as financial management issues within the Department of Defense. I'd highly recommend Naval Postgraduate School to anyone who's looking to receive an MBA, to work hard, to study private sector business issues, as well as learn a lot about Department of Defense financial management.
The EMBA program is the executive MBA program. A traditional MBA, Masters of Business Administration program, is a little bit more technical in its nature and is for people sort of in the middle management area. The EMBA the executive MBA is designed for people that are moving up into higher levels of management, generally a little bit more strategic in nature and a little bit more broad-based in what it addresses. We've recently started a new cohort of students that are civilians in the financial management area, but our primary focus is on the restricted line active duty officers.
The military officers are any community, whether it be restricted line, unrestricted line, staff corps officers, apply to the program. There's a very rigorous process that they go through for selection through the admissions department at NPS and the EMBA program. And then upon selection, we will select 50 military officers a year for each cohort, and we'll select 25 civilian persons a year for the civilian cohort.
What this program is designed to do is to help officers as they're moving from the more technical levels where they need the more technical engineering skills into the more general management areas. And so it gives them an exposure to general principles of management, financial management, acquisition, and really prepares them to move up the ranks and become managers of their enterprises within the military.
The MBA program, in response to Naval Air Forces, was a reach out. And how do we get officers whose careers can't afford the time in residence at Monterey? In order to keep them upwardly mobile in their careers, the program is developed to go to typically aviation sites and now other sites around the Navy to provide distance learning graduate education with the same learning objectives and outcomes as a resident program. That's why this program is taught via distance learning. Live instructors via video teleconferencing 3 days a week, either Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, one of those days, across the United States.
My name is Lieutenant Greg Lembo. I'm originally from Wyckoff, New Jersey. I've been an instructor pilot here at HSM 41 for about 2.5 years. HSM 41 is a West Coast fleet replacement squadron. We teach air crewman pilots how to fly the MH-60 Romeo helicopter. Basically, we take students that are fresh out of flight school. They've never set foot in a fleet aircraft, and we teach them how to safely fly and fight the aircraft before they go to the fleet and deploy. I'm currently enrolled in the distance learning program at Naval Postgraduate School, their executive MBA program. I've been involved with that program since September of 2008. I'll be finishing up this September 2010. My command has been very flexible in affording me time to complete my studies, both giving me time on duty and off duty to complete those studies. And they put a lot of emphasis on higher education, so I've been fortunate for that. The education that I've received through the EMBA has really caused me to take a hard look at some of the processes I do here in the squadron in terms of how we train students, how we can increase throughput, and how I can do my collateral duties much more efficiently. So definitely a beneficial impact. And also it's really shown me how we buy these weapon systems. So I get to go fly them every day, but I've also kind of understood a lot more about the budgeting process of how they actually get to this squadron. I think that no matter where you are in your career, if you're thinking about staying in or getting out, if you have the opportunity to either go to the Naval Postgraduate School or participate in one of their distance learning programs, you should absolutely do it. Take it.
The students can walk out of classroom on Tuesday and step into their offices on Wednesday and immediately put to use the courses and the materials that they learned the day before.
Any graduate degree will have some sort of a capstone, either a project or a thesis. And in this case, it's a team project, and typically the teams are formed by the students who are at one site together. For example, there might be 2 teams from San Diego, 3 teams from Washington, D.C., 1 from Norfolk, and so on. In any given quarter that we have students graduating, their task is to identify before that final quarter a project problem, for example, that needs to be solved by somebody senior in their command. So for example, it might be for the Commodore or an Admiral or a Captain, senior to them, that needs to have work done, and there are always plenty of topics. So we've had all kinds of great success stories. There's been a whole new squadron stood up in Whiting as a result of the work done. Lots of restructuring in the Navy that saves the Navy literally millions of dollars in some cases, not every case, of course. But they set about to identify this project, conduct it in their last quarter, and in the end must brief it out to that senior sponsor that they're working for, as well as myself, and write a report and so on, like any capstone. The clear-cut difference is that this work is getting used, or at least, at the very least, opening the door to other work to be done. They get their graduate education. As noted, they get a defense focus. So your piece, for example, that you did earlier on our helo student, he's pointing out to you that sure, he flies the helos, but now he understands the process the business behind what gets those helos to him and to the squadron to use. So I guess I couldn't say enough about the defense focus in the program, which of course our resident students would get as well. But in this case, these students are able to do this at their home commands, so the career progression is not interrupted.
This program was really devised for officers that are going to become captains and become flag officers, or for civilians that are going to become SES. So they can get the groundwork graduate education done while they have the time, they have the opportunity to hone those skills before they become a flag officer or an SES civilian.
Well, here's how you can get more information on the Executive MBA or the MBA program at the Naval Postgraduate School here in Monterey, California. Coming up after the break, we'll find out how women in Afghanistan are playing such an important role in today's military mission. Well, certainly these days, women are playing a bigger role in the war in Afghanistan. We had the opportunity to talk to an NPS professor who spent some time there and share her experience. Welcome, Maria Vetter. Maria, I'm wondering if you can tell us what you did while you were on active duty.
We were working on a project looking at cultural data here at the postgraduate school. And what we realized is that it's very difficult to take a very qualitative narrative and find metrics such that it can be modeled. And so as a group, as a civilian group, we decided that the best thing I could do was to volunteer in uniform and go to Afghanistan and actually study culture from being within the area. In doing so, I joined the Army's Human Terrain Team and went over as a research manager on the Human Terrain Team. But uniquely, I was assigned to a Marine regiment. So here I was, an Army female officer assigned to a Marine regimental combat team located in Helmand Province. And so it was a really exceptional experience to go serve in that capacity as a cultural advisor to the commander.
Tell us a little bit about what you did while you were in Afghanistan.
Well, initially we worked on just that, studying the culture and trying to inform the commander on what are the nuances that he needed to be aware of as he's making military mission-focused decisions that would impact the civilian populace. What wound up being another part of my responsibility was because I was a woman and had a specific gender in that culture, they sought to find other women there in the Marine Regiment so that we could begin interacting with the women locally there in Helmand Province, because it's a very closed society. So if we wanted to know more about what was going on in the home and behind the compound walls, then it had to be women speaking to women so that we could honor them and be respectful of their culture.
From a cultural standpoint, I understand that women are not really allowed to speak to men, correct?
That is the custom, and it was a very delicate situation that I really respect the Marines for how they handled that and honored it. We deferred to the conservative. The male Marines would speak to the male Afghans and ask permission for the females to enter the compound to speak to the females. And in that context, it was very normal for the Afghans to be receptive to it, because they do have many women interacting with one another, but they generally are escorted by men, and that is culturally normal for them and very honorable for them. And so we conducted our interaction in the same way so that it would be comfortable for them. And so the men would be as receptive to it as the females were. And that way there was a non-threat environment and posture that allowed us to interact freely and to make everyone feel safe and secure in terms of the information exchanges and how we were conversing with the women.
I'm wondering how the women reacted to you and how the relationship grew from the time you first met them.
Initially, the reactions would be a bit reserved. It was very unusual for them to see a foreign woman, much less a foreign woman that was dressed like a man. And of course, we had on all of our military gear that we were had to patrol with, because most of these areas were very rural and very remote, so it was several miles worth of walking and patrolling before we would get to a compound to do these engagements. So once we arrived, they were very receptive to us when they got to know us, and it was very similar to interacting in any social group, where you have to get to know one another, you build rapport, and you earn trust by your actions, by how you interact, your body language. And as we had persistent engagement where we got to continually interact with the women, you formed a sisterhood, and you formed this bond that is beyond the differences that we had, and it became a very endearing sentiment to have this, to be honored with their trust, and to get to hear about their stories and what they were doing and how their life was progressing. So it was quite an honor.
Well, Maria, thanks very much for being with us here on the Pentagon Channel.
Thank you.
Well, thanks to Maria and all the women who play such an important role in today's military. Well, recently we had the opportunity to visit with the Executive Vice President and the Provost of the Naval Postgraduate School, Leonard Ferrari. Well, Provost Ferrari, thank you so much for taking time to be with us here on Inside NPS on the Pentagon Channel. Wondering if you can give us a bit of a recap of the academics for 2010 here at the Naval Postgraduate School.
In terms of research, we have some very exciting new programs. We have received last year a $100 million space telescope that we've got in a clean facility that will enable us to do research on adaptive optics, and in fact 3 of the major funding agencies from the Department of Defense are talking about a joint center of excellence at the Naval Postgraduate School in adaptive optics. We are about to open a center for free electron laser research. The building's been constructed, and we're now just running the building through some of the safety requirements so that we maintain radiation safety standards. We have exciting programs and growth in cyber systems and operations, both at the education and the research side. We are anticipating the first introduction of our electrical and computer engineering and computer science versions of cyber systems and operations as early as January. We have a few students that will move into those programs, and we're looking at the development of perhaps a new P code for a new master's in cyber systems and operation that would be appealing to people across all agencies, and including the Navy, of course. The P code would satisfy a requirement in the Navy that we're trying to define with Navy leadership. In terms of other research that's on the horizon, autonomous vehicles and control of autonomous vehicles is being headed up by retired Captain Jeffrey Klein, who's also running our maritime security program at the moment. Those 2 programs have a lot of synergy. Jeff used to be our warfighting chair, and this is a program that will look at not only the technology of autonomous vehicles, but also their application in actual combat and conflict situations.
Well, I know one of the things you've put a great deal of effort behind is the National Security Institute. Can you tell us about that?
We saw a need for the development of a National Security Institute probably 4 years ago. As you know, the Naval Postgraduate School is traditionally a naval defense university, but as the types of conflict and the types of security issues began to broaden, we saw a need for the creation of an institute that would be dedicated to national security. That institute is a joint institute with Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory and the University of California's Santa Barbara campus. We also felt the need, which this institute can provide, to expand basic research on the Naval Postgraduate School campus and in areas where we didn't have the facilities to be able to utilize the facilities of the University of California and Lawrence Livermore National Lab.
Well, a brand new series we have that's your idea actually is the Global Challenges Seminar Series, and that started in December and will go through this next year. Tell us about that.
The Global Challenge Seminar Series is an attempt to bring some of the most knowledgeable experts, subject matter experts, that are dealing in what one might call non-traditional security threats. When, for example, the former director of national intelligence, Admiral Blair, declared that the global economy and the U.S. economy was perhaps the greatest threat to national security, we made the decision to go ahead and create a seminar series and try to bring some of the leading economists from around the world to be able to discuss with them their views and their visions of global economic security. We had Giovanni Dossi, who's from Pisa, Italy, but who is also has an appointment at and co-chairs a center at Columbia University with Joseph Stiglitz, the Nobel Prize winner in economics. Professor Dossi is also an acknowledged expert in his field, which deals with how industry relates to the government and public sector in large economies. We have invited Leon Panetta, the director of the Central Intelligence Agency. He has agreed to come and give a talk. Now we need to find something that's open on his schedule. But as you can imagine, his schedule is a lot tighter than when he was our neighbor at Cal State Monterey Bay. We've also invited Dr. Marcia McNutt, who is the director of the U.S. Geological Survey. She will be out in the next, after January, of course, and we'll be talking, I'm hoping, about the current state of the ocean as it undergoes some changes that are due to climate change around the world.
Now, I know our second speaker in the Global Challenges seminar series is scheduled. Can you tell us who that is?
We are fortunate to have Ambassador Mary Yates, who is a member of the National Security Council, in fact, in charge of strategic planning for national security, and is also a special advisor to President Obama. She will be here for 2 days, and on Thursday evening, the 13th of January, she will give us a talk on her perspectives on what the greatest challenges to national security are.
Thanks very much to our Provost, Leonard Ferrari, and all our guests who appeared on this edition of Inside the Naval Postgraduate School. From Monterey, California, I'm your host, Alan Richman, right here on the Pentagon Channel, inviting you to join us next time.